Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that I can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to japankyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Japan Station.
Welcome to Japan Station, a production of japankyo.com. This is the podcast where we teach you everything you should know about Japan, plus a few other things. I'm your host, content creator, founder of japankyo.com, and the anime linguist on YouTube, Tony R. Vega. So today I've got another episode of Japanese Plus Alpha for you. So this is my Japanese language focused podcast that I was producing for the $3 a month plus alpha tier members on the Patreon, japankyo.com/Patreon. Join now to listen to more episodes of this. You have to scroll back in the archives, but there's more episodes that I haven't released yet. I've been releasing them on a somewhat regular basis here on the public feed. I was doing this for quite a while, probably around 2 or 3 years ago. And finally, I am releasing them to the public, but on a slow drip basis. So this episode is about a very commonly used word and phrase in Japanese. I will just add one thing that I didn't say in the episode. So I will mention a word, hiku, and I say that this word means pull. However, in the phrase that I talk about, usually it's only written in hiragana. It's rare to see it written in kanji. But when it is written in kanji, then it means pull or something along those lines. Other than that, I think the episode holds up. Nothing much to update there. By the way, I will be in Japan very soon. I arrive on October 28th in Hiroshima, and then I'm going to be walking all the way down to Kagoshima. And then I may pass by Osaka very briefly, but then I think I should be in Tokyo by October 31st, and then I leave on November 4th. So I may be doing an event, maybe around November 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, at Pintology in Sasazuka. So once I know for sure when I will be doing that, and by event, I really just mean a get-together. And that's the bar that Kyle does. I've had Kyle on the show twice, and he's been on Ichimon Japan a bunch of times. So some of you may remember him. Great guy, really funny, and Pintology, his bar, is a great place to get together, really well situated, really easy to get to. So if you're interested in that, make sure to follow me over on Instagram at Tony R. Vega. I will be announcing it over there once I have exact details, and I'll try to announce it here on the show as well. Also, if you're interested in walking with me and you happen to be along the course that I'll be walking, so it's going to be Yamaguchi, Fukuoka, Kumamoto, and then Kagoshima. Let me know. You can reach out, mail@japankyo.com. I always welcome people who want to walk with me. It definitely does help psychologically, and also it is faster when I walk with someone because, remember, I'm legally blind, and so having someone there always helps. They can read the signs and whatnot. Or if you just want to go grab something to eat and you happen to live in Fukuoka or something like that, let me know. I try to meet with as many people as possible during these trips. And if that happens to be you and you're in that area, let me know. mail@japankyo.com. Reach out. Don't hesitate. Always happy to meet up with listeners. Every single time I've met up with a listener of the show, it's been in Japan, in Finland. It's been wonderful. I always enjoy doing that. So let me know. mail@japankyo.com. Always happy to hear from you guys and meet up. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the episode. Here we go. From japankyo.com, this is Japanese Plus Alpha, a podcast about the Japanese language and its various quirks. I'm Tony Vega, and today we're talking about something that I happened to discover by accident while doing research for a different topic. So what that was an article on the Nikkei Shimbun website. Nikkei Shimbun is a newspaper in Japan. And the article covered a very interesting topic. So if you've learned Japanese for more than 2 weeks or so, then you probably know that the phrase to catch a cold is
風邪をひく.
Kaze o hiku in Japanese. Okay, kaze o hiku. That's made up of 3 components. Kaze means the common cold, right? O is a particle. It's a direct object marker. Don't worry too much about what that means. And then hiku is the verb that we use in this case. Hiku can mean various things. In this case, it means something along the lines of pull. in a way, and we'll explain that further in just a couple minutes. Now, this way to phrase this as kaze o hiku, something o hiku, like you would not use this to talk about a different sickness, right? For example, if you caught influenza, you would not say influenza o hita, that's the past tense. Influenza o hiku, that's the present tense. Whereas in English, right, you can say to catch influenza or to catch a cold. Both can use catch. I think you can also say like I got a cold or I got influenza, right? Like that doesn't seem too weird to me. That seems okay. So in English, you can use those verbs interchangeably, but in Japanese, you can't. So if you want to say influenza or like to catch a sickness of some kind, a lot of different kinds of sicknesses, normally you would say something ni kakaru. So ni is a particle, kakaru is a verb, and kakaru can mean many, many, many different things. I'm not going to go into that. Although in this case, there is a specific kanji that you would use with this kakaru. However, a lot of times you also just see it with hiragana, right? This kakaru is a very amorphous verb that has many different meanings. In a way, it's almost like get in English. Get can mean a whole lot of different things. But anyway, that's a whole other tangent. Ni is a particle that can be used in many different ways. Again, I'm not going to go into that. But influenza ni kakaru to catch influenza. Hashika ni kakaru to catch measles. Byoki ni kakaru to catch a sickness of some kind. So ni kakaru can be thought of as the default general to catch something, contract something. Ohiku is an exception. Kaze ohiku is a weird exception. So why is this the case? Well, the article explains, and in order to understand this, we have to understand the history of the term kaze. Kaze can also mean wind in Japanese, okay? So kaze can mean wind, or kaze can mean the common cold. Kaze ga fuku.
Kaze ga fuku.
The wind blows. Kaze o hiku. You catch a cold, okay? So kaze as wind predates kaze as the common cold. Kaze as wind has been around for quite a bit longer, it seems. But the article explains, and this is information that was derived from an etymology dictionary in Japanese. So this seems like a pretty reliable explanation. It's not the only place that I've seen this explanation, but given that Nikkei Shimbun is a well-established newspaper and also they cite their information, I think this is pretty reliable stuff that I'm about to present. So in the Heian period, which goes from around the late 700s to the late 1100s, we see that kaze is being used not just as wind, but also as a really general kind of catch-all term for some kind of sudden sickness, not just the common cold, because in the way that it's being used, we see that it doesn't just involve like coughing and a fever and a sore throat and a runny nose. We also see that it's associated with things like diarrhea and abdominal pain and maybe even like neurological symptoms. So it's, like I said, a very general term. So what's the connection there? Why did kaze, which means wind, come to take on this other meaning and come to be associated with sickness? Well, in order to understand that, we have to understand that this seems to have come from ancient Chinese philosophy and medicine, in that back in the day, kaze was thought to not just be this thing that moves around in the atmosphere, but also this force that can cause some sort of effect on the human body. And a lot of times it's a bad effect. So the article explains that kaze could bring with it jaki. And jaki is an interesting word. It's made up of two kanji. Ja is, we'll get into that in a moment, but ja is a short vowel. And then ki is a super common kanji that I'm sure pretty much anybody listening to this podcast has heard used or has seen, because it's used in a ton of words like genki, right? Genki desu ka? How are you? And of course, ki, in a very general sense, just means like some kind of energy or spirit. They talk about ki in Dragon Ball, right? It's that energy that they shoot from their bodies. Ki can have many different meanings, but we're sticking to mainly that one for these examples. And then ja is written using the kanji for like, it can mean something along the lines of evil or bad. Now, jaki can be translated as ill will or just some kind of bad, evil spirit energy thing. I'm just going to use the term bad juju, okay? Because it seems to align pretty well in this sort of general bad energy sort of sense. So according to Chinese ideas about the wind, it can carry this bad juju, this jaki, into the body, right? And again, hiku can mean like to pull something, or if we slightly modify it, hikikomu, like to pull something into something. So when the body pulls this bad juju into it, then you get sick, right? So, watashi kaze o hiita. I caught a cold. I pulled wind into me, I guess you would say. It's very weird little translation, but that's what it literally means, right? So, kaze o hiku. That's why you get this other meaning of sickness, right? When you literally pull this bad juju into your body, then you get sick. And thus, kaze comes to mean some sort of broad sickness, right? Not just the runny nose kind of sickness, but also other stuff that just happens without any kind of explanation back in those days, right? Because they didn't know about viruses and germs and all that stuff. So when something happens, they go, oh, it's just kaze. You put some of that bad juju in your body. Now, that Nikkei Shimbun article explains that around the Heian period, you would also be able to write kaze as wind sickness using the kanji for wind and sickness, and that would be pronounced hubyo, right? So I guess you could either read it back in those days as kaze or hubyo. But then we get into the Kamakura period, which is the next like couple hundred years after the Heian period. And at that point, they started using the term huja. Now, hu, again, is an alternate reading for the kanji for kaze, wind, and ja is that jaki that we were talking about, that bad juju, right? That ja is the first kanji, again, means something bad or evil. So in the Kamakura period, you get this word that is huja, which can also mean like a cold or, I guess, general sickness. Now, I don't really know what happened in the Edo period. That article didn't really explain much, and I am certain that there were other dialectal variations on this whole thing, that there may have even been totally different words. But when we get to the Meiji period, what we see is that the government seems to, well, so the thing is that the article doesn't go into depth into this aspect of the story. It just says kind of like, in the Meiji period, then we get modern day kaze. But I know a bit of background history of this. And the thing is that in the Meiji period, the Japanese government makes a huge effort to, for example, eradicate dialects. They want the Japanese language to be uniform. They want everybody to be like one thing. We're all like one happy family and the emperor is our daddy. So like there's a big push for that. And so what happens is that, you know, you get a lot of elimination of certain dialectal variations, and there's declarations that this is the way that everybody has to speak. So at this point, it seems that this is when we must have gotten the decision that kaze is going to be written with the kanji for wind and ja, just like huja was, but it's going to be read, pronounced as kaze. So the proper way to say that you caught a cold is kaze o hiku, or in the past tense, kaze o hiita. Now, in modern day Japanese, people I don't think are thinking about, oh, I pulled wind into my body, therefore I got sick. It wouldn't surprise me that a lot of people in Japanese would have no idea about the history of kaze and the wind and all this stuff that I just discussed. Maybe a lot of people might have some general idea, but I'm sure plenty don't really think about it and don't really care. So, yes, I said that kaze o hiku means to pull wind into your body, but that is just one interpretation that can be made based on the kind of background of this word, this phrase, okay? But in modern day Japanese, on a daily basis, kaze o hiku simply means I caught a cold, and there's really not much more of a nuance to that. Interestingly, though, we do still have certain remnants of this idea in the modern day Japanese language that wind brings bad juju into your body. For example, there are many modern-day Japanese names for diseases that still feature the kanji for wind. Here's just a few of these. Tsufu is gout. Hashoufu is tetanus. Hushin is rubella. And chufu is palsy or a stroke. There's different ways you can translate that, but so that is why, if you've ever wondered why is kaze being used in all these sickness names, well, it's because back in the day, people thought that the wind brought the bad juju into you and caused all these different kinds of sicknesses, and Chinese medicine and Chinese philosophy had and continues to have a pretty significant influence on Japanese and the Japanese language and kind of Japanese ideas about certain things, right? So there you go. That's the rundown on kaze and kaze o hiku and why that's special and why you use ni kakaru for other stuff that is not the common cold. All right. So if you're a patron, make sure to stay until after I do my little sign off, because I'm going to be talking about a kind of sickness or a condition that is somehow connected to dog crap on your face. So don't go anywhere. Make sure to listen until the very end. And if you're not a patron, then hey, why not sign up to the Patreon, japankyo.com/Patreon. But anyway, thank you for listening, and see you next time on Japanese Plus Alpha. Hey there again. So today we were focusing on the names of sicknesses and how you say that you got sick. So of course I was doing research into various names of sicknesses, and I happened to be, reminded of one. So, when I don't even know if you would call this a sickness per se. It's a kind of infection, but a stye, S-T-Y-E. So I think you would say I got a stye. However, you don't hear that all that often, but it's not an uncommon thing, right? It's a bacterial infection that happens in an oil gland or hair follicle in the eye. And so your follicle, that little pore or whatever it is, it gets inflamed and it gets kind of painful. And I'm pretty sure that's happened to me at some point, although I don't remember when. It might have been when I was fairly small. But that's besides the point. The point is that a stye in Japanese is often called a monomorai. And actually, there's other words for this, but that's the word that I knew this by. That is what I had heard before. I think the technical and proper term is bakuryushu. All right, so the ryu is long and the shu is a short vowel. I'll include the kanji in the show notes. I had never heard this word before until I was doing the research for this. As I said, what I knew a stye by is the Japanese word monomorai. Now, monomorai is an interesting word in that it's made up of mono and morai. Mono means thing, and morai is like a noun form of the verb morao, which means get or receive or obtain, something along those lines. It's a very common verb. So literally, this means like to get something. Actually, monomorai can also mean beggar, right? So you get how a beggar is a person that receives things, right? They beg for things and then they receive them. So that's a monomorai, right? That is a thing receiver. It sounds strange, but that's the literal translation. So why the heck is a stye called a monomorai? So I did a little bit of investigation and I found on the Japanese Wikipedia page for monomorai, or for this, for styes, I guess in Japanese. It explains that there is a superstition that a stye will be healed if you receive something from someone. So I guess if somebody kind of gives you a present or something, then that will result in you getting your eye healed of this monomorai, of this stye. I don't know where this came from, but I found it pretty interesting. This Wikipedia entry also had other very interesting alternate names for styes. And by far, the most interesting variation of this comes from Saga Prefecture. So according to this entry in Wikipedia, one possible name for a stye in Japan, in Saga Prefecture, in this dialect of Saga Prefecture, is dog crap. So it's inu no kuso. Inu no kuso. Inu means dog. No means like of or apostrophe s. It's like the possessive. And then kuso means crap, or I'm going to say the S word. So if you don't want to hear it, cover your ears. Shit. All right. So dog crap. So apparently in maybe not all of Saga Prefecture, there's probably specific pockets where this dialect is spoken. Some people, and it's probably older people at this point, but maybe this still survives in modern day Japanese in Saga Prefecture. I don't know. A lot of times with dialects, like it's only the older people that speak it, and only certain sprinklings of the dialect survive in the younger generation. And this may be one of those sprinklings. I don't know. I don't really know people in Saga Prefecture, or at least no one well enough where I could reach out and ask them this. But apparently this was a thing at some point, and it may still be a thing. If somebody has a sty on their eye, they may use the term dog crap, inu no kuso, to refer to it. So, hey, isn't language wonderful? I love discovering stuff like this. But again, monomorai is, I think, the most common word. You hear this more often. I mean, not that I'm talking about styes all the time, but like I said, that is the word that I knew it by, but there's other words. So anyway, that's just some random, tangential, loosely related information that maybe is not that helpful, but I found pretty interesting because I just happened to stumble across it by accident when researching the rest of this episode. So there you go. All right. See you next time.